Hey everybody, Lysis here, and today we have another episode of Noob vs Advanced Redstone, where I'll be showing off a Noob and Advanced Redstone build that I made. So today we'll be going over a Noob and Advanced version of a Redstone calculator. So here we have the Noob calculator, which to inexperienced Redstoners might seem a bit advanced. However, this calculator is very basic since it uses only basic logic and only has one function. The calculator can only add and use numbers from 1 to 15 since it's a 4-bit adder. The calculator uses 2 rows of levers to output to ROM, which will send the input into the adder itself in binary. Then the output from the adder will go into a 5-bit decoder that will give an output from 1 to 30. The decoders will then send an output into another set of ROM, which will then send signals down to the 7-segment displays. And now we'll do a couple equations just so we can show off the calculator and its functions. So as mentioned before, there are 2 rows of levers, the top being A and the bottom being B, which will send a 4-bit signal into the adder. The signal will then be sent to the 7-segment display over here. So first let's pick 2 numbers to use. The first number we'll take will be 6, and then an 11 for the top. So for the output we should get a 17. Next, let's change the B from a 6 to a 3. Then we should get a 14 as the output now. Now this time we'll actually have 2 inputs on the bottom, which will actually cause a problem. So we'll actually keep the 3 on and now also input a 5. Since the calculator uses ROM for the input, if we have 2 inputs on the same row, the inputs will then OR with each other and then it will give us a wrong output instead of adding all the numbers together. So that means we'll have to end up ORing 5 and 3, which will give us a 7, which then the equation becomes 11 plus 7, which is 18. And obviously we didn't click on 7, so this is not right and this is a problem. Another problem that you might have noticed when we were doing equations are the fact that the output will occasionally show false answers first before giving us the final answer. And this is because the adder that we're using is called a ripple carry adder, which for a lack of a better phrase is a really adder. Now here we have the advanced calculator. So the obvious first difference you'll see is the size of the calculators. This one is definitely much larger than the new one. The advanced calculator has way more features and capabilities than the previous one. The new calculator was a simple single function calculator that can do 4-bit equations, meaning it can do addition for numbers from 1 to 15. However, the advanced one is a 4-function 8-bit calculator, meaning it can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division for inputs from 1 to 255, and with outputs all the way up to 62,025. Now, one thing I want to mention with this calculator is that it's not necessarily a really good advanced calculator. It has all these advanced functions, however, there are a lot of features in it that are not user-friendly and make it somewhat not a good calculator. Some of these problems include having leading zeros. For example, when you look at the calculator when there's no input, you see zeros on there instead of no input at all. And when you add a 2-digit number, for example 15, you would have a 0 in front of it, meaning you have leading zeros, which is something you don't want to see in a calculator. Another issue is that it uses combinational logic, and for division, that will lead us to a lot of rippling in the answer, so you won't get the final answer until a little bit after you input it. Now, one major issue with this is that the inputs are determined by the size of the calculator itself, meaning it's determined by how many bits there are versus like the maximum number you can get for a single display. So you have 3 zeros, you can get 0 to 999 in decimal. However, since we're stuck to 8 bits and we're representing it all in decimal, you can only do 0 to 255, which is something that is not really obvious. So it's also going to be something that gets in the way of user friendliness, since the user would probably expect there to be inputs up to 999. So the input for this calculator is done by using ROM, similar to the new one, except the ROM leads into a BCD to binary converter. So BCD stands for binary coded decimal, which is a way of representing decimal numbers using 4-bit binary numbers for each digit. We do this because we're able to input one number at a time, and as you input a single number and you input the next one, it multiplies the previous number by 10 and adds the new one to it. So you, for example, if you input a 1 and then you want to input a 5 after that, After you input the 5, the 1 that's already in there will multiply by 10, giving us 10, and it will add the 5 to it, giving us 15. And if you add another number, for example 2, it will multiply the 15 by 10 and add the 2 to it, giving us 152. This makes it so that we can have a really intuitive input selector that we can input decimal numbers and get a binary output. So now let's talk about the functions. Each function has its own separate unit. So we have an adder for addition, subtractor for subtraction, so on and so forth. So like I said, for addition, we have an adder. And the adder that we're using is a carry cancel adder, which is a Minecraft method of implementing carry look ahead logic, which is basically a way of synchronizing carry logic so that we don't have ripples, such as the ripple carry adder from the Noob adder. We do this by using comparators as a subtract node, and this way we can have a cancel line going up instead of a propagate line, and when you uncancel, that's when you're propagating it generates. For subtraction, we have a borrow cancel subtractor, which is basically a CCA except modified so that it does subtraction by default instead of addition. So we do this by having the carry logic modified, because in CCA we have an XNOR being cancelled by a NOR, but here we have a nimplies canceling a nimplies. So nimplies basically just means not imply. It is some logic that people don't come across often in Redstone unless you're going into this kind of logic. So by doing this, we're able to get subtraction logic really simply and quickly without needing to use 2's complement right off the bat. However, if we get a negative number, the negative number will not be represented as a binary number with a negative sign. It will be represented as its 2's complement. So we'll have to reapply 2's complement to it in order to get the positive value, and we'll have a separate signal going to give the negative sign in the end. So for multiplication, we have a combinational multiplier that uses carry cancel adder cells. So basically we just stack a bunch of carry cancel adders next to each other and shift it up, and each of them gets an input depending on what the initial inputs are. And finally, we have division, which we have a combinational divider. And like the multiplier, we have a bunch of cells, except this time we're using borrow cancel subtractors. And we take the output from the carry out instead of the output of the subtractors themselves. The output of the subtractors will end up being the remainder, and we'll use that in order to round up or round down. So the output of the divider is actually the carry outs of each subtractor cell. The answers are then sent to a 16-bit bus. And we have 16 bits because a multiplier is able to give up to 2 times the number of bit of the inputs. So we have an 8-bit multiplier, we're able to give up to a 16-bit output. And then the output is sent to a binary to BCD converter, where we take a single cell and then we stack it a bunch diagonally in order to apply an algorithm called double dabble. After that, the resulting binary coded decimal numbers are then sent into multiple 4-bit decoders that go into ROM in order to go to the 7-segment displays for the output. So let's do a simple demonstration of the advanced calculator where we will be doing all the basic functions and show off what you can do with this. Anyway, that's the end of this video. If you want more in-depth tutorials on the builds I did today, then comment down below. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more Redstone content. Also follow me on my social medias linked below. And I also stream on Twitch where I'll be building awesome Redstone builds on different public Minecraft servers, so you guys can come and build with me.